Hi. So this video was originally supposed to be one long video, but it ended up going a little bit longer than I thought it would, so I've decided to split it into two videos. So this first one is going to be me going over what I like about Guilty Gear Strive, and the second one is going to be a different video, which will be in the description, that will go over what I dislike about the game. Overall, I'm happy with the game. As someone that's not really a Guilty Gear player, it's not like I haven't played Guilty Gear at all, but my total time between Exit and Plus R is probably about 100 hours, so I haven't played Guilty Gear very much, especially in contrast to fighting games I actually do play, like Soul Calibur and Tekken. I've put over 1,000 hours into both of those games. Guilty Gear is not really a game I played too much, and it's not like I don't like it. It's just a game that's hard to play because of the lack of player base and the shit netcode in Xrd, and up until recently Plus R, and I've been playing Plus R a bit more, and I like it because of since it got the rollback netcode. But anyway, point is, I like the game. I'm gonna start with the things I don't like about, though, because it's not like I like everything about the game. And yeah, they're definitely, it's definitely different. This isn't really a con, but Strive is definitely different from other Guilty Gear games, and that is definitely a cause for concern for a lot of people that have played Guilty Gear before. And to me, as someone that plays Soul Calibur, I feel like the change from Exit to Strive is like the change from Soul Calibur 3 to Soul Calibur 4, or if we think of the reverse of Soul Calibur 5 to Soul Calibur 6. And the reason why I say that is because I personally, as a Soul Calibur fan, do not consider Soul Calibur 3 and 4 to be Soul Calibur games, in a lot of the same way that a lot of people consider Strive to not be a Guilty Gear game that have played Guilty Gear games before. And the reason why I don't consider Soul Calibur 4 to be a Soul Calibur game is because of how much they changed fundamentally about the system from Soul Calibur 3. And they weren't changes that I liked, because they changed a lot of fundamental aspects of it that I thought made the game fun and interesting, and they took those away and replaced them with something else, particularly the 8-way run system in Soul Calibur 4, and then Soul Calibur 5 they put GI on a meter, which I thought was pretty fucking stupid. And the meter in general in Soul Calibur 5 at least is pretty dumb. In Soul Calibur 6 is better, but it's still kind of dumb. In Soul Calibur 5 it was trash. And so that's why I don't consider those games to be Soul Calibur games, and it's mainly because of how they changed the movement. And with fighting games, for me, movement is very, very, very important. And when I play characters, movement is very, very, very important. And so when you nerf the movement, when you gimp the movement, I don't like the game as much. And it's kind of the same thing with Strive, right? I think a lot of people have valid reasons to say, if they've played previous Guilty Gear games, Strive isn't a Guilty Gear game, because they've changed a lot about it, and they've changed a lot of the core fundamental aspects of it, and they've removed it, and those are aspects that could have made the game fun and enjoyable for certain people that play Guilty Gear, and removing those means that the game just doesn't feel like Guilty Gear anymore, because it doesn't have the aspects that people liked about it anymore, and that's completely fair. But I would also argue, in Soul Calibur's case, as much as I don't feel that Soul Calibur 4 is a Soul Calibur game, it still is. Because if you take the Soul Calibur 1, 2, 3, and 6, right? They all belong in this bubble to me. And then you take Soul Calibur 4 or 5, they're like out here. And then Tekken is all the way over here. What game is Soul Calibur 4 and 5 still closest to? It's still closest to Soul Calibur, right? It's still closest to the Soul Calibur games. So it's still a Soul Calibur game. It's just, to me, it's not, because there's a lot of things about it I don't like about it. And it's the same thing with Strive. If we have the Guilty Gear games here, if we have Plus R, if we have Xrd here, I mean, really, they're both, I know we can get into an argument about if they're in the same thing, but anyway, the point is, if they're here, and Strive is here, and Street Fighter is all the way out here, Strive is still a Guilty Gear game. It's just not going to feel like a Guilty Gear game to a lot of people, and I think that's absolutely fair, because it's very, very, very different. But I would also argue, one, it still is a Guilty Gear game. Two, it still has the complexity and the depth that it did before. It's just more tied to the Roman cancel system than the gatling system, and that's something I'll talk about more in the pros. And it's not a bad game, right? I think a lot of people have played Guilty Gear games before are too hung up on things that existed in previous Guilty Gear games, particularly with the gatling system. I hear a lot of people saying that the game doesn't have mechanical depth or complexity because it doesn't have the gatling system, and that's just not true. It still does, but it comes from the Roman cancel system. And again, it's because the game's very different, but a lot of people are just saying the game's objectively bad because it doesn't have, like, Oki and setups and stuff like that, because it doesn't have these systems, and that's just not true. It just doesn't have them in the same way that it did before, which can feel bad to a lot of people, and it can make you not want to play the game, and that's fair, but it still has those things. Yeah, fuck it, I guess I'm already on a roll, so I'm going to talk about the pros first instead of the cons. So the thing is, the RC system to me is a lot like the gatling system in previous Guilty Gear games. The Roman cancel system, because of how much depth it has, because of how much you can do with it, is the thing that's going to... Well, again, it's just like the gatling system, right? It's very freeform. It allows for a lot of creativity, it allows for a lot of complexity, it allows for characters to do a lot of weird and crazy shit. And it has so much to it that it's, again, like the gatling system before. Before in Guilty Gear was like, you can do this thing. Like, we're not going to stop you from being able to do this thing, but it can still be pretty shit. Like, yeah, you can gatling PKS heavy together, that works, but it's not very good, but you can do it if you want, and that's especially appealing to more casual players, because they can just be like, okay, well, I just want to hit buttons and have cool things happen. And in this game, you can't just hit buttons and have cool things happen, but you can do the same thing with the Roman cancel system, and of course that requires more labbing and more practice more than just mashing buttons, but it still holds true. I spent, in the beta, and granted, this was when the servers were down and I was playing offline, but I spent 10 hours in the game, in practice mode, just looking at how the Roman cancel system works. Because there's a lot of creative and interesting things you can do with the Roman cancel system that you couldn't do in previous Guilty Gear games. Yeah, there was stuff that you could do in the previous Guilty Gear games with the Roman cancel system that you can do in Strive, but Strive takes it to a completely different level, and you just have to look on Twitter, you have to look at YouTube to see the things people have come up with in just 4 days. It's insane what people have been able to find with the Roman cancel system in just a couple of days. Like, for example, with May, I found that with Roman canceling, if you do vertical dolphin, you probe and Roman cancel from full screen, you can cross up your opponent, which is insane. With Ramlethal, I can do core circle back K, I can do a drift Roman cancel from mid-screen, and then I can do a jumping K, and then I can jump cancel that into another overhead, or I can land for a low, or I can just do nothing and grab their ass. And that's stuff that you just couldn't do in other Guilty Gear games. And because, again, it's so freeform, the game just says, yeah, you can do these things, right? If you see this move, with May, you can do close slash, you can do two heavy, you can do vertical dolphin, Roman cancel it, drift Roman cancel it to get behind your opponent off of a block string, and then backdash, and now you're creating, what's essentially a left-right mix-up. Is it good? Not really, but you can do it. And you can do a lot of weird and interesting and cool things with the Roman cancel system, and anyone can just fuck around with the Roman cancel system, find one cool thing they can do with one move, and be like, oh shit, I want to do that in an actual match, and that's fun. It's fun for me to play May, and do vertical dolphin, Roman cancel it, cross my opponent up, and then hit them with another dolphin. That's fucking sick. Is it good? No, it's not good, but it's fucking cool, and I don't play Guilty Gear. And that's another point I want to make too, especially with characters like May. Another complaint a lot of people have is that characters have less tools, right? Characters have less tools, and therefore they've been neutered, they have less complexity, and that's just not true. Because again, with the Roman cancel system in this game, every move has, with meter, 10 times the amount of uses it did before. I keep going back to the May thing because I love being able to do fucking vertical dolphin from full screen and murder my opponent. It's fucking sick. But is that something you can do? Can I, from full screen with May in any other Guilty Gear game, do horizontal dolphin and get to the side of my opponent? No, I can't, right? I can't. I can't fucking do, I can't do a block string with May, do a horizontal dolphin, do an upwards drift Roman cancel, and then create a 50-50 out of essentially dash canceling a 2 heavy with a fucking dolphin and then Roman canceling it. You can't do that in previous Guilty Gear games. And it's cool. And then something like Ramlethal, a lot of people complain that like Ramlethal's core circle back K you can't use from movement anymore. At least that's what I remember hearing. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, the point is you can, if you have half a bar of meter, you can still use that move for movement because it propels you forward, it keeps you in the air, and guess what you can do from mid-screen? You can do a forward purple drift Roman cancel, and then from mid-screen, if you do that move, you can be right in your opponent's face and you can fucking murder them. And also, if you time it right, when you're at the peak in the air, you can do a drift Roman cancel, go over their head, and then cross them up, or then do a backdash back to the same side, and then hit them with an overhead or a low. Or just land in their face after it, and then do a grab or an attack, and do that kind of mix-up. And you can do that from really, really far away. And this is all stuff that you cannot do with the Roman cancel system in previous Guilty games. Even though you could do a lot with it, there's so much more that you can do with it in this game. And again, if you just look on Twitter, if you look at YouTube, if you look at people experimenting with this stuff, it's been 4 days and people have found some really insane shit that they can do with the Roman cancel system. 4 days! So imagine what people are going to find in 4 months. It's going to be crazy, but a lot of people are writing off the game because, again, they're like, but characters don't have as many moves, there's no gatling system, and yeah, that's true, but in regards to the moves, again, you can do so much more with one move because of how the Roman cancel system works in this game. And another thing that people are saying is there's no pressure, there's no mix-ups, there's no Oki, and that's not true, because again, if you have half a bar of meter, you can do that. Again, just look on Twitter. Look at what people are finding with the game. And it's very simple right now, but again, if you give it time, people are going to find a lot of insane things that you can do with the Roman cancel system. And yeah, you can't do it as often because it costs half a bar in this game, and in previous Guilty Gear games you got it all the time, but I think that creates an interesting dynamic because it means that you're playing neutral, you play neutral, and then when someone gets half a bar of meter, all of a sudden they can just, like a switch, just fuck you up. Put you in a really fucked up mix-up situation, really fucked up Oki situation, on top of being able to do what they could do in previous games. They can use it for dead angle, they can use it to extend combos, they can do a lot of stuff with it. So, the point is, Roman cancel system in this game is great, and even though I think the things a lot of people are complaining about that I was just talking about, I think even though that's changed, because of everything you can do with the Roman cancel system, it's still there, and the game has a lot of complexity and a lot of depth to it that I think a lot of people are missing, because a lot of people are stuck in the old ways of Guilty Gear, and they're thinking, but I don't have these things, so I don't really know what to do with the game or the game system when I can't do these things. And that's fair, right? Because you have to think of the game in a very, very different way from previous Guilty Gear games in order to be able to create those situations. But they still exist. And I don't think it's fair with how much potential the game has right now because of the RC system to say that, you know, the characters are gutted, the game's gutted, the game's much simpler, the game's much easier, it doesn't have as much depth. And even if I'm wrong about all this, right? Even if I'm wrong, the point is that there's still too many questions. Just look at Ramlethal, right? Look at Ramlethal, for example. When Ramlethal got revealed, people said, you know, she didn't have her wall game anymore, she was going to be bad, she was going to be weak because she couldn't set a sword, she didn't have her PK strings anymore. And what I said when I saw that trailer is, it was like, wait a second, but she puts the sword in the corner and the explosion happens. Can't she RC it and do a mix-up there, right? Because she's plus. Can't she dash up and try to get her swords, and then if someone tries contesting it, she can hit them and then break the wall? And her 5S has a lot of range, so can't she do that into a sword? And if you're in the corner, you have to block the explosion and stuff like that. And I was thinking, yeah, she's definitely different. You have to play her differently, but it still looks like she's kind of the same, right, in a lot of ways. And I think there are too many questions to be able to just judge how she is immediately. And guess what happened in Strive? Right, you play her in Strive, and yeah, she has a much lower skill floor, but then look at the shit Sonic Fox is doing with Ramlethal. And Ramlethal's one of the best characters in the game. Some people say the best. It's either her or Pochemkin. And her wall game is fucking crazy. Her wall game is crazy. And not all of it is due to the RC system, but the RC system enhances it. You throw out a heavy sword, you drift Roman cancel in their face, grab them, sword explodes, right? And then you get the wall break and do half health. And if they think you're going to throw, then you just hit them, and then again half health. It's insane. You throw a sword, you do an upwards drift Roman cancel, and then you get a fucked up 50-50 mix-up, and if you lose it, then even if it's just off of a jumping K, sword explodes, and you lose half your health. And that, again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It was 4 days. People had the game for 4 days. And I think Ramlethal, just seeing Ramlethal and how she's changed is, again, a good example of how this game overall is going to change with the RC system. I think the RC system is going to this game's going to be blown wide open in a couple of months, and people are going to see the insane shit you can do, and when they get used to it, it's going to be just as well, maybe not just as crazy. I don't think that's fair to say, but it's going to be a crazy game. And I don't think it's fair to say, again, that the game is simple. It doesn't have any depth. It's a Street Fighter, stuff like that. It's not a Guilty Gear game. Until the game's been out for a couple of months, because there's just so much you can do with the RC system. And I guess the last thing to say, too, is not just I think the game's going to be deep and complex, but I think the characters are, too. I forgot to mention this, I think, but because of how the Roman cancel system works, I think characters are still going to have a lot of depth and complexity to them. I don't think they're neutered. There's definitely some characters that are, but it's not even by much, I don't think. Because I think every character in this game is going to have a very high skill floor because of the stuff you can do with the Roman cancel system. And I think all of the characters are going to be fun and interesting to play, and they're going to have complexity, they're going to have depth. It's just, I think the thing that's undeniable, though, is that feels like they've lowered the skill floor on a lot of characters, like Ramlethal, for instance, her skill floor is lowered. I feel like even May's skill floor is lowered, False skill floor seems to be lowered. But I think the skill ceiling is high, right? I'm hesitant to say just as high, but it's still very high. It's not like characters, you're just going to be able to pick them up, play him for like a week, and then be like, yep, that's I know how to play this character. Like, well, unless you're playing Kai. And in that case, then yeah, sure. I mean, you can figure out how Kai works in a day. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it's fair to judge characters right now. I think it'll be fair to judge characters and how they feel and how they play and how much depth they actually have. About a month or so after the game comes out, there'll be an idea. But I think when we've only had the game for 4 days and we're just trying to figure out the mechanics, I don't think it's fair to say that they're just completely gutted.
Hi, new day, new me. So there has been, I recorded this video a couple days ago, and I'm about to start rendering it and put it up, but I figured I'd throw this in because something that I've been seeing a lot of people bring up, and I think it's just wrong, is that Oki characters can't be in Strive. So one example that I saw today is that someone said they wanted Coom back from Guilty Gear Xrd, and someone replied to that saying, nope, he has Oki, so he's not going to be in the game. And I think this is important to bring up in the pro section, because
part of that comes back to what I said before of the RC system, but another pro that I think is in this game, a part of this game is how much characters vary, and how actually, despite what people could initially infer based on what they said when the game was coming out, they wanted to simplify the game, that they wanted to stay away from stuff like Oki. That character and those character archetypes are still in the game, and it's very clear that Arc System Works is open to any archetype in the game, whether it be Rushdown, whether it be set play, whether it be Oki. All of those options are available. So characters like Kuma, like Venom, could potentially come back. Now, will they be different? Yeah, because they have to change to work in Strive system like Ramlethal, but they could theoretically come back, and a lot of people are saying that they can't because they have set play or they have Oki. And I think this entire idea that characters can't come back because of that is incredibly short-sighted, incredibly close-minded, and comes from ignorance and people not seeing, or maybe choosing not to see, the kinds of characters that are in the game and what they can do. We already have an Oki character that's in the game designed for Oki. That type of character is already in the game. There's already precedent that Arc System Works is more than fine and capable of putting a character into Guilty Gear Strive that revolves around Oki, and that is Milia. We also, and maybe people haven't played Plus R, so they don't know who Anji is. I blame them a little bit because rollback netcode. Still, regardless, there may be a lot of people who started playing Guilty Gear with Xrd and have never played Plus R who are saying this. But Anji is in the game, right? Anji's in the game, and Anji his entire thing is Oki, right? It's the butterfly, like that thing when someone wakes up. His entire game revolves around Oki. And then people say, well, you don't know if he has the butterfly. Look at the trailer. It's at the end of the trailer that he has the butterfly. And he's using it at the end of the trailer for Oki. For setups. For pressure. For mix-ups. And then Ino's in the game too. As much as I don't like Ino, she still looks like a cool character, and she still looks unique, and she still looks completely different from the rest of the characters in the game. And what does Ino do in Guilty Gear? Oki. So, and okay, I will concede that we haven't seen enough, and I don't know enough, personally, about Ino to know if she's going to revolve around Oki. But what is one of the main things that Ino is known for in Guilty Gear? It's Oki. Like Venom. Well, Venom's more like set play, but also Oki too, right? And Coom and characters like that. So, to say that they can't come back because of they are Oki-based characters is bullshit. It's complete bullshit, because the game in Arc System Works is clearly very open to having any type of character in the game. Any type of character. And, just look at the characters that are in the game and you can see that. And then you can say, oh, well, but there's only Milia and Anji. There are only 2 characters in the roster that revolve around Oki. You do realize that there are only 15 characters in the game, right? You do understand that. So, an eighth of the roster revolves around Oki. An eighth of the roster, the main game plan, revolves around Oki and Oki's MA setups. An eighth of the roster. That's not an inconsequential amount of characters. Maybe insubstantial is the right word. I don't even know if that's a word. But anyway, you get the point. Oh, God, Anyway, You get the point. And then what if Ino also revolves around Oki like she did in previous Guilty Gear games, and that's 3 of 15 characters. That's a fifth of the roster are characters that not just have Okizeme and Okizeme options and mix-ups and setups, but it's a fifth of the roster that revolves entirely around that. Not just characters that have that. The characters that revolve around that idea. So again, just to say that is, I think, very, very short-sighted and very ignorant. But I would also say that a lot of the people who are saying this have no interest in Strive, have had a preconceived notion about Strive since the game came out, and are saying things that just blatantly aren't true, because, ironically, these people are Guilty Gear players that actually haven't played the Guilty Gear game they're talking about. Which I think is hilarious, because, that's the common joke. Fighting game players always talk about Guilty Gear. It's the game they talk about the most, but no one actually plays the game. And now the shoe's on the other foot. Now it's people that do play Guilty Gear, people that play like Plus R, Xer, that have never played Strive but still have opinions on Strive, and are still trying to talk about Strive. Which I think is funny. But yeah, anyway, the point is, the reason why I wanted to interject here is because the pro that I wanted to say is that this game is very open to seemingly any type of playstyle, which is kind of contradictory to what they said before, which might either mean that there was a mistranslation, or a lot of people took it the wrong way and ran with it the wrong way, or it might mean that they're open to change, and they're open to making the game, or have made the game, more complex than it was originally intended to be. And whatever the case, I think it's ultimately a very, very good thing that Strive is willing to have any play style in the game that at least I can think of have been in previous Guilty Gear games. And despite what you might say about how they want it to be easy, or they want to go away from this or that, it's clear that they're still going to be characters that revolve around stuff like Okiseme and setups. It's just maybe not every character is going to be able to do those things. I guess just some. I guess the way I'm trying to say it, because maybe that's a bad way to say it, but like in previous Guilty Gear games, every like kind of like Tekken, right? Or Soul Calibur, or the 30 fighting games in general, I guess every character has Okiseme options, but some are much better at it than others. And maybe in Strive, there are characters that don't really have that as an option at all in any capacity, but there are also characters in the game that revolve around that and can do that extremely, extremely well. Anyway, that was long. I might re-record this back to what I was originally saying. So some other things I want to talk about in regards to pros. Obviously the game looks great. There's more I want to talk about actually with the cons in regards to how the game looks, because I don't think the game looks amazing, but it's not graphically. Graphically, the game is amazing. Even if you prefer the pixel style artwork, which I do personally, and I still think King of Fighters 13 is a better looking game than Strive. That might be a hot take, but I genuinely think 13's a better looking game than Strive, but it's still one of the best looking games, period, that's out right now. It's just, it looks phenomenal. The wallbreak system. This is something I want to briefly talk about. The wallbreak system, I think, is a good idea on paper, but it needs work. Because again, since Roman canceling, since meter is so important in this game, and meter is what makes this game so complex and have so much depth to it, breaking the wall and being able to get that meter bonus is really good. It's really important. I think there are some things that can be changed with it though. I think one thing I might actually prefer is if you just get half a bar of meter flat when you break the wall. That might be too good though, but again, I feel like with how important meter is in this game, getting half a bar of meter just flat out would be better, because you already get half a bar over time anyway. So just keep the positive bonus, don't have passive meter game, but just get half a bar for breaking the wall. I think that would be better. I might be wrong. I probably am wrong, but I feel like that would be more interesting. But if you do that, then take away the damage bonus. Another thing that I don't like either about the wall break is how it puts you in the middle of the screen. I think most people agree with that. I think a good way to be able to fix this, and the reason why is because it feels bad for if you're playing a character that's really good at the wall, like Ramlethal, if you're playing against a character that's bad in the corner, like Faust, I think, is really bad in the corner. Or if it's just like you have a sliver of health left and your opponent, after you break the wall, has like 25%, well then you've just lost your advantage, and then they just have to hit one button and kill you, and you have to work to get them back to the wall, but then they can get you to the wall, and it doesn't feel good to break the wall in those situations, and it should never, you should never feel bad for completing a combo, but it can, and that's a problem, I think. So I think a good solution for the wall, for being able to fix the problem with the wall, is if when you break the wall, when you go to the other stage, your opponent's back is still to the wall, you both reset it neutral at 0. If you do a super, you get a mix-up, and you don't have to sacrifice the wall, and then the wall you can't break for a set period of time. I think that would just be better overall, because then the Strive, they can do the wall break thing that they want, they can do the positive bonus thing that they want. For whatever reason, they keep wanting to push that, fine, fair enough. Small stages would still kind of make sense too. But then you would never feel bad for breaking the wall, because then you would be able to break the wall and continue wall pressure at the wall for a set period of time. Which I think that would be a much better solution than what it is now, because it just resetting to neutral is pretty shit. Because again, you should never feel bad for completing a combo. You should never feel like you're at a disadvantage for completing a combo. I think that's pretty stupid. Okay, a couple more things too. The for the overall balance, even though there are characters that are clearly at the top, like Pochemkin and Ramlethal, and they need to be tuned down, there are characters at the bottom, like Chip and Faust, that need to be improved. And I know I'm making a tier list right now about Strive, and we've had the game for 4 days. I don't mean to do that. I'm just saying, even though there are clearly characters that are better and worse, and it's in a way that would be a problem if it's full release, for the most part, the game's actually pretty well balanced. Right? The game is pretty well balanced. There's nothing, at least on the surface, that seems so good that you should only be playing one character. Is that you should definitely be playing Ramlethal Pochemkin if this game was at Evil tomorrow, but I don't think that the game is very imbalanced. I think for it being a beta, it's surprisingly very good. So I think that's just a pro. And it makes, if the balance is like this in the beta, I think the balance is going to be really good when the game comes out, and I'm hopeful that when DLCs come out, those will also be balanced. So I think that's a good positive. And also the training mode in Strive is, I think it might be the best training mode in any fighting game, because it's just very clear, it's very concise, but it gives you all of the options you could possibly want. You open up the training menu, there's a bunch of tabs, it's very clear what's in all of the tabs, they're described well, you hover over a tab, you don't even have to click in it to know what's in there, and then you can see everything that's in the next tab on the right side, and then you can look at it and say, nope, that's not what I want, and then just go down instead of having to open and close the tab. I think that's great. It gives you all of the options you could possibly want. It's great, right? I mean, what else can you ask for? Oh yeah, frame data. And this is where I'm actually going to get into the cons. But before I get into the cons again, even though they're going to be less positives than negatives. I think the positives are still outweigh the negatives, because the negatives I have are much more minor compared to the positives that I have to say about this game. So yeah, it just I think the game's solid, right? I think the game's going to be great. I think not every Guilty Gear player is going to like it, and that's fair. But I also don't think it's very fair to say that the game's incredibly simple and gutted when there's so much to still be discovered. And I really enjoyed my time with Strive. It's my, probably, besides Samurai Showdown, my most anticipated 2D fighting game ever. I don't play a lot of 2D fighting games, to be fair, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to Strive. But again, there are negatives too.